And today we're making some yummy soft pretzels. But before we talk about that,
if you've joined us before, you might notice something is a little bit different today. We have a couple things going on. First of all, we have this nice cart here called the Charlie cart. We got this by a grant, so we're really excited to use it. It includes all of the kitchen supplies that we need to do this for you guys. There's a lot of fun stuff here that's got lots of stuff in there for us to use, and so we're really grateful for this, and we're so excited to get to use this to do these demonstrations for you guys. It even has a toaster oven that's kind of like an induction oven over here. It comes with mixing bowls, so everything that you see that we're going to use today, including the pots and pans, all came from this grant and the Charlie Cart project. So we're very excited to be here, and we're very excited to get to use this. Another thing you can see is we've got this set up with our camera here so that you can actually see the overview of what we're doing, so it might help. Before we've just had kind of just us presenting, and so this is a way that you guys are able to actually view what we're doing at the same time. So we're hoping this will just add to the experience, and yeah, we're excited to be here. Thank you guys again for coming.
Mm-hmm. So how many people have made soft pretzels before? Anybody?
Two?
Okay,
Cool.
Just a couple. This is the first time I've made soft pretzels was yesterday when I tried this recipe. So it's pretty easy. We think they turned out really good, and we do have samples, so you guys will get to try them at the end. But they are perfect for all the time, but especially for right now, for your Oktoberfest celebrations, to dip in some soup.
Yeah.
You can make them sweet or savory, but today we're just going to make a simple salted pretzel.
Yes, so we are using this this cookbook, the One Bowl Baker. The highlight of this book is kind of that there's minimal dishes involved, which is pretty cool. We'll talk a little bit more about that because we're kind of having to avoid that at some points, but we'll talk more about it. But it's a very cool book. We've actually used it a couple times for Biblio Bites because it's such a good book. We did our homemade Pop-Tarts out of this. We almost did a bacon donut,
Cinnamon roll, I think it was,
or something, yeah. But we didn't end up using that one, and then we're doing the pretzel today. So here's a little picture of the ones that they did. Lift it up so you can see it on there.
Oh.
Okay. Anyways, so we're going to kind of just start going through it and show you guys how to make it, and we'll definitely have time for questions, and if anybody happens to have one, we can talk about it.
Feel free to raise your hand,
Yeah.
So we're going to start out first by making our dough. And so the first thing we need for that is we're going to melt some butter and warm up some milk, and that is going to go into our bowl with our dry ingredients. So we'll grab that over here. Feel free to grab chairs and scooch them forward if you need to. Okay.
So the first thing we're doing is we're going to get 3 tablespoons of butter.
There you go. Another really cool thing about the Charlie cart is that the inside of it is all labeled about where all of the, you can kind of see it, I guess, where all of the items go. So you can tell, like, the spoon should go there, and so it helps keep us organized too, which we like.
So the recipe does call to just put the butter in the microwave and melt it. Unfortunately, that's the one thing that we don't have on here is a microwave. Can I pass that to you? Thank you. So we're just going to do a quick melt in the pan here, and we're going to do the same for the milk. It says to heat it up in the microwave for 1 minute, but unfortunately we don't have that option at the moment, so we're going to just do it at a very low temperature and just melt it here, and then we'll put it right into our bowl.
So we're doing that first, and then we'll be adding our milk next. We also have a sink here you might be able to see, and that's a really cool feature as well. I'm going to move this so I don't knock this off, because we all know that might happen. And so we have a sink where the water comes up and goes back into another container. So it is very cool, very useful. So you'll get to see all of its features today. But we're just going to melt that butter.
This is 1.5.
And I'll pour the milk here. So we actually are live streaming to our Facebook and Instagram accounts.
I think that it does go up on YouTube. Yeah, on the city's YouTube account. It will be up on there. We've got Matt back here, and he's going to post that for us at a later date. So because I don't want this butter to brown, or at least not too much, I'm just keeping this at a real low heat just so I can get it melted.
And then we're going to combine that with our dry ingredients shortly. So we're going to have flour, we're going to have brown sugar, a little bit of salt, and yeast.
Yes.
And so this is a dough that has to rise. And if you're wondering how are we going to have enough time for this dough to rise, it's because of the magic of television, where we have dough already rising as we speak. So don't worry, it will
we're not
be
going to
ready.
keep you here forever. So this is all melted, so I'm just going to go ahead and dump it into there. Try and get out as much as I can. And again, if you're making these at home, just do it in the microwave. We did that yesterday, and it took maybe a minute. It was super fast. So now we're going to go ahead and we're just going to pour that right in. And then I'm just going to keep it moving because I don't want it to get gross. And I'm just going to do this for a little bit. And I turn the heat down to 1 because we literally just want this warm. We don't need it cooked or anything. So I'm going to stir it. And then as soon as I think it's going to be warm, which probably just give it about a minute, and I'm going to pour it into the bowl with the butter.
I'm getting my ingredients out here. And we are using regular salt for the dough, but I want to make sure and mention we have some coarse salt that we're going to pour on the pretzels at the end so they have all those salt pieces on top. So you will need 2 different kinds of salt for this. Unless you want to make a sweet pretzel, then you'll need some cinnamon sugar or something else fun to put on top.
Instead of the coarse salt.
Yeah. And the recipe does say you can do that, and it's very simple. You truly just put cinnamon sugar on top instead of the salt. So the dough does have brown sugar in it, but it doesn't taste really sweet. It's kind of, I think, just the way you make soft pretzels has the brown sugar in it, because when we tried it, it didn't taste overly sweet. You can kind of taste it a little bit, but it has that soft pretzel flavor. So that's something fun.
So now we're going to go ahead and add those in, like Megan was saying. So we're going to do 3 teaspoons and 1/4 of yeast. Sorry. So 3 1/4 teaspoons of yeast.
Do you want to talk about that?
So yeah, this does call for instant yeast. There are different kinds of yeast, as if you've done any kind of baking or dough, you might know. This one is made to be a little more fast acting, so it doesn't have to rise quite as long. It doesn't need quite as much attention as maybe another one might. I forget what it's called. Do you remember, Stephanie, what the name of that other yeast is? Active yeast, yeah. So this is the fast acting, and the recipe did call for this one specifically. So.
And we should also mention that we buy all of our ingredients at the Fry's in town. So all of this stuff is easily accessible. We are waiting for Fry's to sponsor us. They have not sponsored us yet, but we'll work on it. That was the 4th. It's called the One Bowl Baker. And so the whole point of the cookbook is that you don't have to do that many dishes, which is fun. Okay, that was all the yeast?
Yes, should be good.
All right.
Okay, and then we've got a teaspoon and a half of salt. And this is just your regular salt. If you're used to using seasoned salt or sea salts or something, it shouldn't hurt the recipe at all if you do change out the salts, or Himalayan or whatever. But this one just calls for just salt. So we're just going to whisk that together, and then we'll get the brown sugar in there, and the brown sugar is going to be 1/4 of a cup. Whoop.
And we do need to pack the brown sugar when we put it in, so we make sure we get the exact amount. So we're going to work on that. And we're using dark brown sugar because that's what we had.
See if we can get this to focus a little better. Maybe not.
The lights.
That's okay.
But you could also use light brown sugar if you have that as well. And it really does make a difference when you pack it because it, like sand or something, it stays together. So packing it ensures you have the exact amount you need. Okay.
So put that in there, and then the color does significantly change. It does turn it a bit brown now from the yellow. So just whisk that together, make sure it's all dissolved and everything is good on there. Okay, so I think that's looking pretty good. And then we're gonna add the flour, which is going to be 3 cups and 3/4. And then if you could mix that for me when you're done, I'll need it for the egg. 2, 3 and 3/4. So it does say to just stir it together, but we're gonna end up having to knead this as well. So honestly, I'm just gonna use my hands because I find it easier and then I don't have to dirty a spoon. Please give me some of that. So I'm just gonna stir it with my hands here.
And I'm flouring the surface here because we are going to roll it out and knead it and twist them into our pretzels. So I'm just sticking a little flour on there for her.
And hopefully you can see this. We'll have to work on, that's our next step, making sure the focus is good so you can see it a little bit better. Okay, so just you're gonna get all of the flour in, and it should get to be pretty sticky, but not unworkable sticky.
You need the whisk? Is that what you want me to wash?
Yeah, for the egg later.
Okay.
Just rinse it. It's good. Okay, so once you get this, now it says that we need to knead this for 3 minutes. So, and it said, the book specifically says, set a timer. So if you are good at calculating, you could probably just do it. But we'll just kind of do this.
Luckily, we have a timer that came in our Charlie cart. So we're going to set the timer for exactly 3 minutes. Okay.
So if anybody is familiar with doughs or anything, or maybe you're not familiar, basically what the kneading does is it's going to activate that yeast with the gluten in the flour, and then that is what is going to allow it to be bread, basically. And it's going to allow it to rise later, and as we set it aside for that. So that is what the kneading's purpose is for. And it does make a big difference, so please don't think that you can skip this step because it will make a huge difference.
And the rising, of course, makes a huge difference too. And so for this, it is going to sit and rise for 1 hour. And when we're done kneading, we're just going to put it in the bowl, cover it with a towel. And we made sure and left it for a full hour because it does get a lot puffier. And that really helps with the process of the dough too.
Okay.
Can't stop yet. The timer hasn't gone off yet. And this is also a good workout for you.
Work out your arms. So for those of you who've made pretzels, has it been a good experience? Did you learn things from it? Did you like them?
It was a disaster? Oh, no.
Yours were good.
Well, this recipe is very simple. And like I said, I tried it for the first time yesterday. And so I have faith. I think that you guys can all do this. Yeah, what's the question? Oh, that's a good question. Well, go ahead.
You could, theoretically, if it was pretzel dough, but the pretzel dough is different. It definitely has some things, I don't know.
Like the brown sugar, like
Yeah.
there are specific ingredients, I would say, in it. I say no, yeah.
It just wouldn't taste the same if you did.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Our time's up.
So now that our time is up, we're just gonna form that into a little ball. And then we're gonna just put it right into this bowl that we've used.
Our one bowl.
One bowl, so we're not gonna dirty a second one. We're just gonna leave it in there.
And it does say in the book that it should be smooth and kind of shiny. And so
It is.
it did.
So we're
create
gonna
that.
have our little Abracadabra. Whoa.
So it is a lot puffier, as you can see.
It's like Good Morning America.
Exactly. So then what we're going to do is we're going to take this out and we're just going to plop this on here. And then I'm going to pass that your way. So then it just says to press down the dough so it's in a oval or triangle shape, or rectangle, sorry. Don't have my shapes right. And then we're going to cut out cut them into shapes. This says to cut them into about 12, but what we did is we actually just made them smaller so we could get more samples for everybody. So if you can make them kind of whatever size that you want.
You can make, like the huge, like Bavarian pretzels that are as big as your head if you want to. Or we made little mini pretzels, so it works no matter what. The next process we're going to do is putting it in some boiling water. And so we'll talk more about that. But no matter what size they are, you can just put them in the water and it doesn't affect the timing or the dough or anything. So
it does give measurements, but again, you'll have to do it however works for what you're doing. So we just have this little cutter here, and we're just going to kind of cut them up. Try and make them even. Some of ours weren't, and then it just makes the size vary in what you're doing. So that's where you're gonna find a difference at. And then I'm gonna cut them this way as well.
And it doesn't have to be exact. You can make big pretzels, small pretzels, and we realized yesterday that some of ours were a little too small, so we combined the dough and made them a little bigger.
Ripped some in half because they were too big, that kind of thing.
So I'm going to start getting this part ready. This is just a pot of water. It's 9 cups of water. And what we're going to do is add baking soda. And this is the key to a good soft pretzel. So if you think about like regular bread dough and compare it to a soft pretzel, it's not like hard on the outside and soft on the inside. Maybe a little bit, but not the way a pretzel is. And it's kind of similar to a bagel, but it doesn't have the brownness of the pretzel. So this is really what gets you the signature pretzel texture and color is this process. So we are boiling some water, and then we're gonna put just half a cup of baking soda in it. And for some reason, this concoction, it's like the pH level, makes it so you just put the pretzel in there and it gets this coating, and then we're gonna bake them. So you can also do this process with lye, and that's a lot of times how people would do it in the very beginning, like in Germany. But there's a lot of
risks
with that, because if you get like lye on your skin, in your eyes, it is a chemical. So this is kind of a safer way to do it with your family. So this is the way we're going to do it, and it's the way the book suggests. But there are other ways to do it. So
and
keep that in mind.
This might seem like a huge amount of baking soda, which it is. If you're familiar with baking, you usually are using teaspoons at a time. But what this does is it's creating that basically almost like a salt bath to be able to do this. And what it does, the book specifically says, do not leave the pretzels in there for longer than 30 seconds or it will change the flavor. So keep that in mind. As far as these go, as that's starting to boil, basically what you're going to do is I just took mine and kind of started to form it. And then you're just going to literally roll them out here. And so if you've ever been to Wetzel Pretzel in the mall, you might have seen them making their pretzels. And they literally pretty much do the same thing here. So you're just going to roll them out, kind of push it outwards, and that will make it stretch. The book says to make them about 26 to 30 inches long. But because ours we're making a lot smaller, we have to count that into factor. So we're just going to make them about a foot long or just less for the smaller ones. So probably about like this is going to be good. And then all we're going to do here is fold our pretzel. So we're going to wrap it this way. If you can just do that and stick it down, but I like to do the second twist and then stick it down. And there you go.
And it is easier when you have a bigger pretzel, of course, because you have more dough to move around. But you can, of course, do it with the little pretzels, too. And make sure you press the ends down really well, because that was a problem we had with some of our first pretzels, is that they came undone. So
when they got in here.
Yeah, so make sure that they're really pressed and that they're firm so that they won't come unknotted.
So then once you got that, then you're pretty much good. And I think, did you give that a stir? I think we need to maybe do that. So yeah, so you just do that same method with all of these. And again, your bigger ones might need to be a little bit longer to make sure that it's good, but then you're just gonna have a bigger pretzel, so no harm there.
And I read some interesting facts about pretzels before this, and there's like a folk tale that says that a baker in Germany was like making pretzels. He was making some dough, and that he had like baking soda and water he was going to use for cooking or for cleaning. And he accidentally dropped it in there, but he thought, what the heck, I'll just bake it anyway. And then it turned out into a pretzel. And so just think about, it might have just been a happy accident that we got pretzels.
Okay. And then, oh good, you got your slides.
Is there the baking sheet?
Oh yes,
I can get that
it's
ready.
in the oven.
Okay. So after we pull the pretzels out of the water, like I mentioned, we're gonna still bake them. And so I'm just gonna get my baking sheet ready here.
So I did find that rolling this out like this was the most tedious part of this. It took the most time consuming. But if you have, like we were doing it together, so if you have more than one person, maybe the whole family wants to join, everybody can kind of make their own, and then it will make the process go a little faster too.
And you don't have to make them in a pretzel shape.
Yes.
Some of ours did not look that pretzel-y, and of course they still taste great. And
but you could easily just do like little bites. You could just take a piece, make it a little chunk, and have little pretzel bites. There's nothing wrong with that. You can make it a ball. It's literally dough, so shape it however you want. It doesn't have to be specific to the pretzel shape. So it just depends on what you want. If you want to impress people or you just want to eat as many as you can, you know, whatever.
And I'm putting some parchment paper on this, and it specifically says in the cookbook to either use parchment paper or the silicone mats when you bake your pretzels, because we don't want them to get too brown. So this is kind of a good way also so they won't stick to bake them. So I'm just cutting a little parchment paper to put on here. And after we get the pretzels out of the boiling water, then we're gonna just stick them on here and put them in our oven. So.
The egg, we gotta do the egg too.
Oh, of course. The other thing that makes them really brown is we put a little egg wash on them. And so that's just one egg that we're gonna whisk up, and then we put our coarse salt on top.
And we do that before we bake them, so.
And then after you bake them, we're gonna put melted butter on top. So this whole process. Okay, so I'm just gonna whisk that egg up a little bit. So it's ready for our egg wash. And that helps get the brown color. And when we were baking them, it only takes 13 minutes to bake, which is not very long. And I checked on them at one point, and I was worried they weren't gonna be brown enough, but by the end, they were
and like
toasty
the last
brown.
like maybe 2 minutes, they really get that nice brown color.
Yeah.
And I thought the ones in the book were very, very dark, which seemed like too dark for me, but the ones that we did weren't quite that dark all over, so it probably depends on how long you cook them for. Mm-hmm. And what your oven is like. Every oven is different, of course, so you're gonna have different things with that.
And I have just a little brush that I'm gonna brush the egg wash on with. Of course, you can use a spoon, you can spoon it on top, but the brush kind of just makes it easier to get it on every inch. It also makes it fun. You feel like you're painting. So this is very creative here. And we have a really big pot of water, so it's just starting to boil, but it's a large pot, so it is taking a little time here for us. But you want to make sure you have a slotted spoon because we don't want to get too much of that water staying on the pretzel. You can also use like a pasta kind of spoon because it has holes in it. You can use
Even like the flat spatula type
I
ones?
was going to say we have a spatula with holes. So anything where you can just make sure and get a lot of the water off of the pretzel when you're taking it out is what you want. So we have that ready to go. And we have lots of cute pretzels happening over here, thanks to Leah. And like she mentioned, we're just going to put them in for about 30 seconds. It says 20 to 30 is the max you want to do. And it also suggests you only put about 2 or 3 in at a time because you don't want them to touch each other. Since ours are tiny, I think it would be okay for us to put more. But I just did 2 or 3 yesterday to be sure. So.
But Megan was very diligent yesterday with cooking them. She counted every 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I was so proud.
I said, don't talk to me, Leah. I'm counting 30 seconds. That's why you need a sous chef, so that they can count for 30 seconds for you. So.
If you're cooking with young kids, it could be a training, like a teaching moment, help them practice their counting.
And folding the pretzels is another really great thing that anybody can do at all ages. We were talking about how it reminds us of our Play-Doh days, rolling out the Play-Doh and forming it into shapes. So that's definitely something you can have anybody help with. I'm starting to see some bubbles and some steam, so we're getting there.
It's probably good, huh?
Yeah?
Yeah, let's try it.
We'll try it. So I'm just going to stick a couple in at a time, like I said. So I'll put one in and another one. I'll do 3.
There you go.
And then we'll count.
I don't feel like I can talk. I'm going to mess you up.
No, you can. It's okay.
Oh, this one here. Yeah, that's true.
Okay. So I'm going to pull them out, and I'm going to get that excess water off. And it's not going to look like they did much, but don't worry. When they sit there for a second, I noticed they did look a little puffier. And just the process of them being in the baking soda and the water is what is going to make the pretzel. So it may not look that different, but that's okay. Once we bake them, you will notice a difference. Yeah, they look a little puffier. So, and even when they dry for a little longer, as I'm like doing all of them, I noticed a difference then too.
So then what we'll do next is, like she said, we're going to take that egg wash, and that's now, right? I'm not skipping. Okay, make sure I'm not skipping steps. We'll just brush them with that, make sure they get all covered. And like she said, that's going to help it with the browning as well once it gets into the oven. So just brush those on there. Paint your pretzels.
And like I kind of mentioned, these pretzels are great for so many things. You can use them for like game day, if you're having like a tailgating.
It's football season, so if you guys like that.
You can use them to dip in some cozy soup. It's soup season. You can just have them as a meal. You can dip them in cheese. You can have a side of salami with them. You could dip them in some mustard. We even talked about how they have the pretzel wrapped hot dogs.
Yeah.
That we think that you could just use the same dough and wrap up the hot dog, put it in there, and then bake them. We think it would probably work the same. So if you try that, let us know.
And then we're going to take the coarse salts. So this is a coarse sea salts, and we're just going to sprinkle it on top of that. And you can do as little or as much as you want. Some people like light salted. Some people like it really doused in salt. So kind of do that to your preference or your crowd.
And they will puff up a little bit. When you bake things, you know, they'll expand. They will do that a little, but they didn't get inordinately bigger. So you can put them pretty close to each other on the pan. Here, I can do your wash. Okay.
There we go. Okay, and now they're ready for the oven. So unfortunately, we only have one plug on the Charlie cart, so we have to switch it out here. And we're gonna
And you
lose
can do a whole pan of them, and if you need to do it in a couple rounds, you can do that too. We had a really big sheet pan, and so we were able to just put them all on one pan, but it does say in the book that you can just do it in a couple rounds if you need to.
Okay.
So
Does it say what is
we
it?
are going to bake them for 13 minutes at 450.
Okay. 450,
So we'll just start these and get them in here
and then we'll. Okay.
so they can start going.
All right. I think you can go.
Okay.
For how many?
13 minutes.
This has the timer on it. This is so cool. Okay. I think we're good.
And if you have to do batches, this is also a good time to roll out your other pretzels while those ones are baking. So you can work kind of in batches as you go.
Yeah.
But
So I think that's about all we had to show you. Does anybody else have any questions or anything? Yes. So unfortunately, we don't have any printed. You're welcome if you have a smartphone to take a picture of the recipe here, or check out the book or put it on hold. You're welcome to do that, yes.
it's a copyright concern since it's a book. We can't make copies of it, but of course you're welcome to take a picture or check out the book. Other questions we can answer?
Where do you do your cooking classes?
Here. So we are library employees, so we do this here. Because we have the Charlie cart, we are able to venture out a little bit and do some outreach ones. We've gone over to the senior center before and been able to do that. So it's all a little bit new that we're trying to branch out, but typically we do them here. We do them every
Month?
every third Wednesday.
Third Wednesday of the month, at 3
Yes.
p.m.
Yes.
So next month we'll be doing the same thing. We'll be doing third Wednesday, 3 p.m. And we're going to be making bruschetta.
Yes.
So building
Building
bruschetta is our theme.
Yes.
So that will be yummy
Yes.
for
And
next month.
We invite you all to come, and we hope that you do, and we're going to have a great time.
And we have lots of planned for the upcoming months too. So make sure you check back with us each month because we have a fun recipe in store.
And we always put them on our calendar, so you can always have a heads up of when they'll be and what we're making. So.
And if you miss it in person, we do post them, like we mentioned, on Facebook and Instagram Live, on YouTube. So you can always watch later, you can cook along with us, and you can see what book we used and put it on hold so you can try the recipe.
Yes.
So on Facebook, what is it called?
So we do call it Biblio Bites, yes.
And it's just
It's-
Apache Junction Public Library's page is where they're posted.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
and the YouTube one is the City of Apache Junction.
Yes.
They're posted on there. So,
So is the next one November 15th?
is that the third Wednesday?
Yes, it is.
But there's a wood burning class at
So we are going to be doing it in a different room because we had a conflict, but we're definitely going to be doing it
Yes.
that day, same time. Yeah, you got to jump back and forth to go to both. Okay, so
All
we
right.
hope to see you all there.
Yes.
And we do have lots of samples here.
So I think we should have enough for everybody to have one.
Yeah.
So.
And like I mentioned at the end, once we pull them out of the oven, we just put a little melted butter on top and they're ready to
And
go.
We
So,
brushed them kind of like we did the egg wash, just melt the butter and then wash that right on, or put it right on. So.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
pretty simple once they're out of the oven.
All right. And thank you so much for coming. We really
Yeah,
appreciate you
please
guys
come
being
up and
here.
get a sample.